It's another season of Texans football. What can one expect? That's our job. On this show, it's expert analysis from former Texan Seth Payne, as well as his teammates at SportsRadio 610, including former pro quarterback Clint Sterner. And as we do each Sunday night on Sports Extra, we start off big and bold. Right now, it's time for our fearless predictions. To start another season, we have to start with our fearless predictions for 2022. Seth, what is your fearless prediction for these Texans?
I've got a fearless prediction that I actually feel very confident about. A lot of times people just make stuff up out of thin air for this kind of stuff. Jerry Hughes, 10 sacks this year. And you might say, Seth, you're crazy. He's 34 years old. Yeah, he's reinvigorated. He's found the fountain of youth off in some Fort Bend County bayou. And last year he had 45 total hurries. That's not too far off from back when he was at his statistical peak back in 2015, 2016. They just didn't all generate sacks. Sometimes that's a little bit of luck. I think with the improved secondary and with the emergence of Jonathan Grenard and the addition of some of these other guys, I think this ends up being a resurgent year for Jerry Hughes.
Man, you took mine. But just as sure as the leaves are starting to turn in your home area of home state New York, and this time of year, my yard and my neighbor's yard starts to get brown patch, this is going to be a fearless prediction that you can count on. Oh, Whitney Merciless, I had that last year, but yeah, okay. I'm going to go, you touched on the secondary, and I'm going to go with this. How about Derek Stingley, Jalen Petrie, co-rookie defensive players of the year? I love what Sting brings, and Sauce Gardner talking smack ever since before the draft that he was the best corner, and Derek's got something to prove there. Of course, he's got a lot to learn, but man, I love watching that guy. And Jalen Petrie, oh my goodness, he's like a captain already. He's just a field general out there. So those two guys, co-rookies of the year on defense. Okay.
I'm going to say Derek Stingley Jr. is defensive rookie of the year. I know sacks are what's sexy, and you've got Aiden Hutchinson up in Detroit, but when you draft a guy number 3, you got to have high expectations. So I'm going to say Derek Stingley, defensive rookie of the year. Daniel?
I'm going to go with a rookie as well, but I'm going to go on the other side. I think Dameon Pierce makes the all-rookie team. I'm not going to go offensive rookie of the year or anything like that, but I think he's got the potential of making the all-rookie team right out of the chute. I don't know if he's going to technically start that first game, but he's going to get a lot of touches. I just like what I saw, and maybe that is cliche of me to pick Dameon Pierce, but he's got a little something, and the Texans haven't had that in the backfield for a while, and I think they're going to take advantage of it. Therefore, he will have a lot of touches, more yards, and I think he will be on that all-rookie team. So Dameon Pierce going to have a big year.
By the way, Matt hinted at it. Last year's fearless predictions, Seth, you had that the Texans would be trading Laramie Tunsil during the season.
Oh.
Nailed it.
Matt had Whitney Merciless as comeback player of the year.
2 for 2.
I had Cam Johnston would set a new NFL record for most punts, and Daniel had Charles Omenihu would register double-digit sacks.
Oh, boy. We all had good intentions, huh?
Yeah.
Big hit to the credibility right there.
Yes.
I think of all those predictions, I think that Jalen Petrie is actually the one I feel best about, Matt, because I think that in this defense, he's exactly the kind of guy that can take advantage of some of these turnover opportunities, especially when you're a rookie defensive back. Offenses don't respect you quite as much as maybe they should if you do end up being a good player, and I think Jalen Petrie is going to be a good player.
He may be able to rack up a lot of tackles because, corners, sometimes balls don't get thrown their way. So, yeah, I agree with you on that one, Seth. And we are not done. We have more predictions. Helping us from Sports Radio 610, Ron the Show Hughley and Clint Sterner. But we are starting with the co-hosts of In the Loop, Landry Locker and John Lopez.
My fearless prediction is Texans will have a top 15 defense. They've improved the secondary. They've improved the linebackers. They got a lot of depth at defense. I think that they are a top 15 defense, and I also think Brandon Cooks, he increases his catches from 90 to 110. 90 was good last year, 110 this year.
My fearless prediction is we've learned this preseason that Dameon Pierce is good. My fearless prediction is he's real good, like good, like a guy that teams are going to be drafting real high in the next year's fantasy draft. I think he has a chance to be explosive good.
My fearless prediction. I think it's fearless. I think Jonathan Gotera is going to have a breakout season. I'm thinking double-digit sacks. I'm thinking between 12 and 15. Yeah, I said it. 12 and 15 Pro Bowl type season. I don't know how many special elite type players this team has. I think he's got a real chance in this defense. So I'm big on Jonathan Gotera this year.
Well, it's going to have to take a back seat to Dameon Pierce. I'm going Dameon Pierce 1,000+ yards.
Oh, real bold.
It's bold. I mean, it's been the worst run game in all of football, including college football for the last 2 years. So yeah, I'm gonna fearlessly predict that Dameon Pierce goes for 1,000 yards or more, and this running game gets back on track. I'm not saying it's not going to be Indianapolis Colts. It's not going to be the Tennessee Titans. It's not going to be a dominant run game, but a rookie going for 1,000 yards. It's a bold statement. A lot more bold than claiming a guy's going to get 12 sacks and had 8 last year in like 2 games.
I said 12 to 15.
I mean, golly.
we got a 17th game. They're going to give him the ball repeatedly.
We've already seen
him the ball repeatedly.
We've already seen him get sacks at that pace, show.
Everybody listening right now, they're watching right now saying, wow, real fearless, huh? Dameon Pierce.
We'll see. I'm going to ride the Florida rookies' coattails.
Yeah, well, that's the in thing right now. So now let's move on to this. By week 9, Lovie Smith will not be loving blank, Seth.
I think by week 9, Lovie Smith is not going to be loving his tight end loving offensive coordinator who has no tight ends with which to love. This is I feel like, yes, O.J. Howard is a name that we all know, but we're grasping for straws here now as we realize the desperation of the tight end situation. I do think that Brevin Jordan has some potential this year, but it's going to come as a receiver more so than as a blocking tight end. So I got to see some of these guys, particularly O.J. Howard, hopefully fully return from his Achilles tendon if this Pep Hamilton offense is really going to take off.
Wow, this is a tough one because Lovie loves life. Man, it's the old Johnny Cash song, A Boy Named Sue, and it made him tougher. This is Lovie, he's got this name and he wears it so well. He's a loving person. If you beat around Lovie, as a football coach or a porter or the kids out at Uvalde, he was eating dinner with them. I mean, this is going to be tough for him. I think the only way that he takes his love away from this team is if he has injuries. Because let's face it, even though they have increased talent this year on different parts of the field, they don't have depth. They don't have great depth. So if injuries start hitting around week 9, Lovie's not going to be loving that.
He could change his name to Hateful, dye his beard black, go, like do the heel turn like they do in pro wrestling.
Yeah, like Hulk Hogan did.
You hate me.
Yeah.
By week 9, Lovie Smith will not be loving the fact that he soon has to play the Browns and Deshaun Watson and will have to be answering those questions very, very soon. So that's what I'm going to say, that Lovie will not be looking forward to, will not be loving the fact that they have to play the Browns and he'll have to answer all those questions about Deshaun Watson and facing the Browns in potentially Deshaun's first game back.
By week 9, Lovie will not be loving the offensive line because he's been kind of high on that during camp. He's like, hey, we got a lot of players up there. We got some guys that can really help us out. But I think there's going to be some pieces that will be shuffled along that offensive line as we go. He feels like he has his group now starting, but I think an injury is going to creep up in that unit. It has the last couple of years. So by week 9, he's going to be wondering, what am I going to do at the offensive line position?
And what does the crew over at Sports Radio 610 think about Lovie and week 9?
I think by week 9, Lovie Smith is not going to be happy with the other backs besides Dameon Pierce. I think they really want to run the football. I think that's how he wants to win. If you look at him in Chicago, that's how he won. He had multiple backs. He had Thomas Jones and Cedric Benson. They were both over 600 yards. I just don't think Rex Burkhead is a good enough backup to get enough production that he wants out of the run game. So I think he's not going to be happy with the other backs outside of Dameon Pierce.
I think that this is an easy answer for me. It's his run defense. I think this defense has improved drastically in the secondary. And I'm not talking about at just the corner where they drafted Derek Stingley. I'm talking about at corner, at slot corner, at their number 2 corner, with Jalen Petrie at safety. I mean, this defense on the back end has really, really improved. The problem is they're going to be relied upon to make too many tackles. And if an opponent's running game is consistently getting to the third level of your defense, you can't be happy with it. I've got a major concern that this defensive line is going to have a tough time stopping the run, generally speaking. But in this division with Tennessee and Indy twice, I think it's going to be a tall task. So I think by mid-year, Lovie Smith is really frustrated with his run defense.
By week 9, Lovie Smith will not be loving. That's a tough one.
I think by week 9.
He will not. Go ahead.
I think by week 9, Lovie Smith will not be loving, so to speak, what this offense is doing with Davis Mills. I mean, that's kind of the odds-on favorite. If you think third-round pick looked okay up and down last year, is he really going to take that big a leap? They're counting on it, but I don't think he's going to be loving it.
By week 9, Lovie Smith will not love his wide receiver depth. That's one of the biggest problems they have right now. Cooks last year had 90 catches. The next most was 33. Nico Collins has looked good in camp, but outside of that, there's not a lot of depth at receiver. Wide receiver depth will be a problem for Lovie Smith.
So how many wins for these Houston Texans? Last year, 4. How many wins for this group under Lovie Smith?
You know, last year there were so many people in the NFL that thought the Texans were only going to win 1 or 2 games. And I think what they undercounted or underestimated was the value of having some veteran presence on the team. Instead of playing a bunch of rookies like a lot of bad teams often do, the Texans were very careful about it. And frankly, with David Culley, who I think was out of his element as an NFL head coach, they were able to win 4 games. I feel very confident this year that they're going to win at least 6 games. I'll put it at I'll predict 6. They would need a little bit of help to get up above and beyond that, but I feel confident they'll win at least 6.
Yeah, I think observers underestimated the value of 2 Jaguars games too, because that always has. Hey, look, the over and under according to Vegas is 4.5. Man, I'm taking that over all day long. I'm on Seth's side of things, but I'm going to push it up to 7. Now, they might not win as much as they did last year because they have which is crazy to think, they have the 5th toughest schedule in the NFL. That's a little crazy to think, but if you go through game by game, I think they can win 7. And if they stay away from injuries, because again, I'm concerned about the depth, but man, that would be huge, right? 7 wins.
All right, so you're at 7. Seth is at 6. I have 6 as well. I actually think they might win one of those Tennessee Titan games, so I'm going to say 6 as well. They won 4 under David Culley. I have to believe that Lovie Smith is worth at least 2 more wins and this influx of talent with the rookie class, so I'm going to say 6 as well. Daniel?
Yeah, I guess great minds think alike, right? Because when the schedule came out, I did something on the show, and I went through and I just kind of circled all the games, and the number I came up with was 6. I think they do beat Jacksonville twice. I think they pick off the Colts. We'll talk about that here in a second. I think they beat the Bears. They beat the Commanders that come to NRG Stadium. So there are some winnable games in there with teams that also don't have a lot of depth. And you're right, Jason. I think Lovie does add at least 2. So I know I hate to be agreeing with you guys because we like to keep things spicy here. But no, I'm going to go with 6 wins for the Texans.
You know, Matt, at least one thing about the strength of schedule is if you calculate it based on gambling odds, then the Texans' schedule isn't as hard as the traditional way where they go by previous year's records and whatnot. So if Vegas is our friend, and it usually is not, at least that makes it a little bit easier for the Texans.
And now, using the whiteboards provided, here's how many wins from Clint, Ron, John, and Landry.
You ready? I'm predicting 6 wins. I will say, I don't know if 6 wins is necessarily going to be a bad season. I think that's just where they're going to end up.
I'm going to say 8. I'm feeling more optimistic. Maybe it's because I'm just looking down the street and I see the stadium. Maybe it's because, I don't know, it couldn't be worse, but I'm going to drink the Kool-Aid. I'm going to say 8 wins for the Texans. 8-9 season, a lot of progress, 8 dubs.
I'm at 5. I got 5 wins, an improvement from last year's 4. I do think this is a better football team. I don't know if it'll show with the wins. I do think it's a better football team. Their schedule is ridiculous. They have the entire AFC West, which is a tough game every team that plays out there. Jacksonville, I think, is going to be a lot better. They swept them last year. I'd be surprised if they did that. It's just, this is a tough schedule. I think it says more about the schedule than it does their team, actually.
I'm going 6 wins. I've said this multiple times before. I just don't believe that it's hard to win 7 or 8 games in the NFL. If you're just doing the simple things savagely well, if you're doing the day-to-day football things in winning fashion, I think you can work your way and into 6, 7, 8 wins. So I think I'm going 6 wins, and I think that's on the low side. So I'm being a little bit conservative in my mind, but I think this team's ready to win 6.
All right, 6. That is the popular choice. And now, the first game against the Colts. Let's start with these 4 predictions. Give me a score and a winner. Week 1, who are you going with, Colts or Texans, Seth?
Well, the Colts have this guy named Matt Ryan as their quarterback, who, by the way, this is Deshaun Watson's last parting gift. Matt Ryan likely wouldn't be in Indianapolis if it weren't for the fact that the Falcons went courting Deshaun Watson right underneath Matt Ryan's nose, which didn't create the best situation, so they ended up having to rectify that. So with Matt Ryan, who I think is going to mesh pretty well with Frank Reich, and who have some promising young receivers on that team with Jonathan Taylor, I think the Colts are the team to beat in the division this year. Week 1, I think Lovie can throw a bit more of an aggressive defense than people are used to seeing out of a Lovie Smith defense, which will shock and unsettle the Colts a little bit, but ultimately the Colts prevail in a lower scoring game than people would anticipate, 21-13.
I'm going to start with Matt Ryan also. He still has nightmares of that Super Bowl loss in that stadium. I mean, I don't know how he couldn't. But this is going to come down to, Jonathan Taylor versus Dameon Pierce. I mean, we're going to have 2 standout running backs, I believe. But Kaimi Fairbairn is back. He's healthy. I have him kicking the winning field goal, 24-21. Texans knock off the Colts, and that's the first of 7 wins on the season.
Wow. All righty. So we have 1 for the Colts, 1 for the Texans. I'm going to say 2 for the Colts. Although there's no more T.Y. Hilton right now in Indianapolis, and the Colts, they are not good in their first game typically. I'm going to say the Colts. I'm going 28-13. I'll say 28-13 Indianapolis.
That's a good point about them not starting off all that strong. At various times in the past few years, it's looked like, oh yeah, Frank Reich's done after this year, and they always figure out a way. I like your thinking about that.
I will even up the score. I will go with the Texans. I alluded to it a little while ago. I think the Texans will come out pretty fired up in this game. I don't know if it's going to pan out in number of wins, but I do think there is something within this group that they want to prove some people wrong after what happened last year. I mean, last year was just a throwaway disaster for the most part, but there's a lot of guys that are returning that want their names cleared a little bit. It's like, hey, we want to be part of a winner, and I think Lovie Smith does bring credibility. I think that defense is going to be flying around. They're going to cause some turnovers. So, yes, I do think it is low scoring, but I'm going to go with 23-19. Texans win. 23-19. The defense leads the way.
Now there's some spice right there. We didn't have spice before. Now there's some spice. Okay, will anyone else choose the Texans? Here's one last visit to Sports Radio 610.
Can you read my bad handwriting? Colts 27-17, I think is what it's going to be. They're going to cover, probably hang in there for a while, but ultimately lose.
24-20 Indianapolis. I think the Texans do cover 24-20. They're just going to out-muscle them eventually, the run game, but 24-20.
I'm going Colts victory. I think the Colts are just light years ahead of the Texans right now. I'm going 28-10 Indianapolis Colts.
All right, I got the Colts too, 24-13. I think the Texans are going to stay in a lot like they did in games last year. I just think Jonathan Taylor in that run game is going to run them down because they're going to be on the field a lot because I think the Texans' offense is going to struggle.
So, for our entire crew, as well as our friends from Sports Radio 610, thanks for watching another Countdown to Kickoff.